Okay. So why do I say developer account is so important? Because you need to generate, before you actually can burn your application into your phone, you need a development certificate. Okay, development certificate is a free developer account. You cannot create a development certificate. So once you, most of the developer, they actually will sign up for the 99 USD 1-year account. Okay, thank you. But because UM itself, they have a collaboration with Apple. So what you need to do is you sign up for a free membership. Then you just you just email me your Apple ID. Then I will include you all into the developer program. Then you can actually generate the certificate. These are the certificate. So this certificate is actually needed so that when you compile your code and you want to provision it into the iOS devices, you automatically sync it in. Okay. I think it's important. Without this one, you can't run anything on the iOS devices. And this portion wastes a lot of time. I expect you all to waste a lot of time at this portion for the first time development. Okay, development tools. So Xcode 6. Xcode 6 beta is just launched 2 months ago on June. So why do I encourage you to use, even though it's beta version, but it's sufficient enough for us to develop an app because it's not going to production. And the reason why I choose Xcode 6 is because we want to introduce a new language. The new language is actually called Swift. This Swift, can I know how many of you know about MATLAB? Okay. How about PHP? Okay, I think the PHP should be the most easiest language. So it's almost the same. That's why I chose Swift. So you know PHP, you know how to do PHP. Swift is almost the same. But Objective-C is very complicated. Okay, this is very complicated. It's almost like Java. Okay. With Swift, I'll show you why it's so easy. Through the app, they will actually, this video actually will introduce you how to build a Hello app using Swift. It's a very quick video, around 70 minutes. So feel free to see how fast I can build an app using Swift.
Hi, and welcome to the first Swift iOS programming tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll take a look at Apple's newly introduced programming language for iOS and OS X, Swift. Swift replaces Objective-C, which was Apple's industry standard programming language for iOS and OS X for almost 30 years. In this tutorial, we'll be creating a basic Hello World application for Swift, as well as taking a look at Xcode 6's new features, as well as iOS 8's new features. Generally, Swift is quite different from Objective-C, while retaining some similar styles. In truth, it's really like Objective-C, but slightly different syntactically. This tutorial will cover Swift from the very basics, so it is suitable for anyone who hasn't even learned Objective-C. So, let's get started. If you haven't downloaded Xcode 6 and you're watching this before the public release of Xcode 6, you will need to get it. The only way to get Xcode 6 at the moment is to become an Apple developer, or that's the only legal way. And that costs $99 a year, but it is worthwhile, as it will allow you to download Xcode 6 in beta, as well as iOS 8 and OS X Yosemite. OS X Yosemite is not needed to run Xcode 6, and Xcode 6 won't replace Xcode 5 if you already have that on your computer. So I've downloaded Xcode 6 from Apple's Developer Center, and I'm now going to open it. So you'll notice that there's a new option when you open Xcode, which says Get Started with a Playground. Now that pretty much allows you to type code and see a live rendering. However, we're not going to use that. It's particularly useful when developing games. So let's just create a new Xcode project. We've got a few options as we did in Xcode 5 with Objective-C. We've got a master detail, which is for iPad, and it creates a split screen. We've got a table view or a list on one side and a main view on the right hand side. Page-based application, which as you can see from the icon, it's pretty much a scrolling application like the iPhone home screen. A single view application, which is a basic application with one view. Tabbed application, which has a tab bar down the bottom, like the tab bar on the App Store or the tab bar on the Music app on iPhone. An empty application, which pretty much just gives you a completely blank template. And then a game. So let's just start with a single view application. Let's call it Hello World Swift. Now I'm going to, for the organisation name, enter my organisation name, and the same for the organisation identifier, which is going to be com.the company name, so the Swift project, dot hello world, and then it's already automatically added dot hello world Swift. Now by default the language will be set to Objective-C, so you need to click on that and change it to Swift. The great thing about that is you can still develop Objective-C applications in Xcode 6 while also being able to use Swift. I'm also going to choose iPhone, and we're not going to be using core data because that's much more complicated. Click Create, choose somewhere to save it, and then click Create. Now let's first start by making it only a portrait application. The rest we can all leave the same, and that's pretty much aesthetically how it looks on the phone, such as the app icon and the loading screen. So we don't need to look at that for now. That's more if you're planning to publish your application. So let's first take a look at the file structure in Swift. As with Objective-C, we have an app delegate, which pretty much communicates with the iPhone's operating system. So it talks to the iPhone's operating system and pretty much tells it about the code that you have written. Sort of like a delegate in real life, let's say politics for example. Now the app delegate used to be appdelegate.m, which was an implementation file, and appdelegate.h, which was a header file, and that was Objective-C. Now it's all merged into a single file. So if you want to declare variables, for example, you can do that all within the one.swift file. So you can see here they're creating a window, and this is all by default by Apple. So we don't need to adjust any of that for now. That's all to do with the app's lifecycle, such as when it opens on a user's phone and closes. We only need to focus on viewcontroller.swift and main.storyboard. So let's start in main.storyboard. This is where we're going to be setting up the interface for our application. Now the application is going to have a label or a title, and that's going to say hello and then the user's name, and the user will enter the name into a UI text field, which is essentially a text field, sort of like this one here or this one here. So let's first start by clicking on View Controller in the Views hierarchy. If you can't see that view, make sure you have it open by clicking on the button in the bottom left. You should also be able to see the sidebar on the right. If you can't, click the button in the top right of Xcode to show it. Now, you might also not be able to see the Objects Inspector, so pull that up and make sure it's selected onto the cube so you can see objects, user interface objects. Now, select View Controller under View Controller Scene, and the whole View Controller should be highlighted or outlined in blue. Change the size to be iPhone 4-inch screen, and make sure the orientation is set to only be portrait. Now, although it's only rumours at this stage, it is thought that Apple is going to be announcing a new iPhone with a bigger screen. So it's giving you the option of having a sort of a square screen, so you're able to make sure that your app looks the same on a square screen, and an iPhone 5 screen, and an iPhone 4 screen, just so it supports all sizes of screens. We're not going to worry about that for now though. So, inside the Objects panel, scroll down until you see Label. It should say a variably sized amount of static text. Get it, click on it, and drag it into your view. You'll see that Xcode provides guidelines, so we can center it in the middle of the screen. Let's now drag it up so that it pretty much fills up the whole width. I'm also going to change the alignment to be centered, and I'm going to click on the step up next to font to make the text slightly bigger. Now let's change the text to be enter your name and phone. Now we need to put in the text field. So to do that, find the text field, which is 3 underneath label in the Objects Inspector, and let's drag that on underneath into your name. Again, we'll drag it to almost the full width of the screen, and we can add some placeholder text, and we'll just set that to be name. once the user starts typing, that placeholder text will go away. Now let's start adding our code to actually make this do something. So we need to go into our assistant editor, which allows us to see the storyboard on one side of the screen and the code, viewcontroller.swift, on the other side of the screen. To do that, click on the tuxedo icon near the top right corner of Xcode. Now, just so I can see everything a bit better, I'm going to close the two sidebars because we don't need them for now. So what we need to do is we need to create a connection between the name label and the code in the view controller. This is so that we can adjust the text on the label. So we create an IB outlet, and that's pretty much the connection. I'll explain it more once we've finished adding the actual code. So right click or control click on a map. From enter your name to the view controller, you'll see a blue line will appear with two dots on the end, and a blue line will also appear in the view controller. We want to drag that line in between class view controller UI view controller and override func view did load. Then let go. You'll see that the connection by default is an outlet, and we can't change that for the label. Let's name it name label, and we'll set the type to be UI label because it is a UI label, and the storage should be strong, although that doesn't really matter. Then click connect. You'll see that Xcode has now added this IB outlet, and it's got IB outlet, so that's the outlet or a user interface element within the storyboard, is pretty much what that's saying. Then there, and that's a variable, so it's anything that can be changed. So obviously a label has various properties, such as its text, its font, its position on the screen, all of that can be changed. It is a variable, like a number or some text or anything like that. We've then named it name label, so it's gone okay to name label. And then this column here is pretty much saying, let's set it, or let's initialize it as just being a UI label. We won't give it any properties, so we're saying nil. Nil doesn't mean it's going to come up as blank on the screen, it means it will show whatever the IB outlet is showing, which is whatever's on the storyboard, but it's not going to add anything else. For example, here we could say UI label, and we could set its text right here, but we're not going to. So this colon pretty much initializes it, or sets it to be equal to this. If we got rid of all of this, all we'd be doing is creating the variable, but it would just be nothing. It wouldn't have any memory on the device, so it wouldn't be able to be used. Now we need to create an action, and the action needs to be called when the user presses the return key on the keyboard attached to this text field. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's a number of ways to do it, but the easiest way is to create an IB action, or at least that's what it was called in Objective-C. Now, instead of having methods, you only have functions, which is what the func stands for. So we need to create one of them. And once again, Xcode provides the option to do this simply by dragging from the text field to the code, rather than having to manually type it up. So, right-click on name, and then drag it to near the bottom, but before the closing curly bracket. So underneath, the view did receive memory warning function. Now, instead of creating an outlet, we're going to create an action. So the action is triggered when, for example, the user touches down, but we don't want it to be when the user touches the text field. We want it to be did end on exit, which is called when the user presses the return key. And what I mean by when it's called is this action will be triggered when the user presses the return key, which is did end on exit. Did end on exit in this context pretty much just means the user clicked on the return key. If we were a button and we chose touch down, touch up inside, for example, that pretty much just means the button has been tapped and let go. So let's name this we'll name this action Hello World Action. Now again, the name doesn't matter, and this is really only for your benefit that we are naming it in this way. You should try and be consistent with your naming because in a potentially larger application, it can get very confusing if you've got over hundreds or thousands of variable names. You want the arguments to be sender, and obviously event did end on exit. Now rather than type any object, we're going to make it a UI text field. Now any object wasn't around in Objective-C, and what it is, it pretty much means that Xcode will work out what type of object it is. So Xcode, like us, will go, well that's obviously not a button, it's obviously a text field, and it will infer that. because it's just implied by the fact that, for example, we're setting its text and all of that. So that's one of the benefits of Swift, is that variables are inferred. For example, here in this name label that we declared earlier, we're not actually saying that it's a UI label. We're not saying UI label name label, which you'd have to do in Objective-C. We're saying variable name label, and we're initializing it as a UI label. So Xcode's going, okay, well, we're initializing it as a UI label, so it's most likely a UI label. And all it does for the developer, for you, is it creates your coding more efficient, because you don't have to be worrying about what type of variable is that. So what I'm doing here is to explicitly say it's a UI text field, because it means when I'm going back to this code in years' time, I'll be able to go, oh right, that's a UI text field. So it's a bit easier for me as a developer, or at least that's my personal view. But you could keep it as any object. Anyway, let's click connect, and now we have this function. It looks a lot like the other functions. It has ID action function, hello world action, and then it's got some what we call parameters, and these are the parameters. So it's got sender, and the sender is UI text field. So the sender is pretty much what has triggered the action. And what's triggered the action? Well, it's this text field over here. So it's essentially going this ID action. So this action here, any code that we put inside the action, it's been triggered by the text field, which is called sender. So that's the name of the text field, so like the name of the label is name label, or they've just called it sender here. We could change sender to be name text field. So we could do that. So let's do that to make it a bit neater. So we've got the action is called hello world action, and it's been triggered by a UI text field, which we've called name text field. Now let's put some code which should be triggered when this action is called, or when this function is called. So underneath the opening curly bracket, which is this curly bracket here, press enter, and inside the ID action, inside the two curly brackets, we can enter the code that we want to be performed when the user presses the return key. So let's think about this. What do we want the application to do when the user presses the return key? We want to set the name label's text to be hi or hello, and then the user's name. So let's do that. So we type name label, which is our label, dot text equals, and so all that does is it says, okay, set the name label's text, so the text shown in the name label, the text visible to the user, to be equal to, and then talking mark, and inside the talking marks we can set the text. For example, if I said hello here, it would, when I press the return key, change the text in the name label to be hello. But of course, we don't want it to just say hello. We want it to say hello or hi, and then the user's name, to personalize it a bit. So, to get the user's name, well, the user's name is whatever text they entered in the text field. So we need to get name text field, which is the name of the text field. So name text field dot text once again. Now you can try typing name text field dot text, but that's not actually going to do anything except display the actual letters NAME text field dot text. We want it to actually display the contents of that, and the contents of it is a variable. So to display a variable within a string, and this is called a string. So any text in an application is a string. So it's pretty much a string of characters. That's where it comes from. So to display a string within here, a variable string, we type backslash, and then in brackets we enter the variable. So the variable is name text field dot text. Now for any of you who have done any sort of programming before, you're probably used to having to close the line by either doing a triangular bracket or maybe a semicolon, something like that. Well, that's another advantage of Swift and why it's more efficient, so that you don't have to worry about any of that sort of syntax. You don't need a semicolon. Xcode automatically realizes that that's the end of the line. Now that's all the code we actually need. So now we can try running the application and we can see if it works. So up the top you'll see a play button, but you'll also see it says iPhone 4S. Let's change that to iPhone 5. Then click the play button. Now you'll see there'll be a loading indicator, and then it should say build succeeded, assuming that you made no errors in your programming. If you do, just go over what we've done and see if there's anything obvious that you've done incorrectly. Now it says enter your name, and then we've got the name. So as soon as I start typing, you should see that the placeholder text will go away. So I'm going to type Jack, and now the placeholder text has gone away, so I'm just going to now go down to my keyboard, and if I now press return, it should say hi Jack, hi space Jack. Ready? And hi Jack. So it did it. So it said hi, as we've got here, and then the name text field, which is this text field, dot text, and the text is just. If I change that to be hi, in just random letters, again it's going to say hi in the random letters that are in the text field. So that's a very basic introduction to creating an application in Swift. Although it looks very simple, you now know how to create and set up an application in Swift, as well as work with basic variables and user interface elements. In the next tutorial, we're going to look at creating a basic to-do list application using...
Okay. Easy, right? This is the Apple initiative. Because the shift is easy, how about I want to get some survey. Anybody feel that the tutorial just now is really tough, or is there anyone feel that it's boring also? It's like nothing, or who feel like it's very hard? Anyone feel the tutorial is hard just now?
If we learn Swift, do we still need to learn Objective-C?
Yes, you still need to learn Objective-C because Swift is mainly for GUI. That means in future, because there's some part of the code like Bluetooth accessory, you need to use Objective-C. And others, the rest, you don't need to use Objective-C. So Objective-C is mainly you can store data, you can present data, you can whatever user interaction you can use Swift. Because now if you go back to Objective-C, there's no point also because people are started to move to Swift. So you need to learn a little bit of Objective-C, but you don't learn so much. Focus on Swift. Objective-C is mainly for connecting the accessory unit, like for Bluetooth.
Mix both language in one.
Yes, you can mix two language. Okay, in the developer resources there's actually called integration between Swift and Objective-C. They actually present to you on how actually to link these two languages together. It's actually in the same
So you need on the step up and IB action activity one. Let's first start by clicking on take a look at the file structure in Swift.
Okay, it's actually almost similar. It's actually Objective-C, there will be a .h and .m file in this directory. And then in order to bridge this code, they call it, there's a bridging header. When you create the file, let's say you create another Objective-C file, they actually will automatically create the header file for you. So what you need to declare is you need to declare the classes that you use, the delegate you use in the header file. Then it will be accessed by both languages. So far, any other question? Okay. For Bluetooth, okay, there's a lot of ways to access. These are one of the class in last year, 2013. They already simplified the method to how to access the Bluetooth using these classes called CB Central Manager. So what you need to do is you need to retrieve, just like in Android, you need to retrieve with identifier, then you connect it, and you connect a peripheral. So actually, this one, please visit this URL. They have a source code there for you. So you don't really need to crack your head on how to build this. Source code is here. The sample code is there. So anything about Bluetooth you can access here. But I can tell that Bluetooth is using Objective-C. And okay, I will suggest you to read this to go back and to refer to this video to know more about Bluetooth, because in this video they are talking really comprehensive about how to work with the Bluetooth, how to call the module, how to connect to the devices, how to, okay, when in background, how you're going to connect back. Because in Apple, previously, Apple, when you press the home button, the app is gone. You have to save your state within 10 seconds. You need to save it. If not, all your data is lost. So for this, they actually teach you how to, because Bluetooth BLE has to run in the background. So they will teach you how to actually pass the services back to the core system, let the system handle, and whenever there's a notification from the Bluetooth devices, they actually back up your app and pass you, just like in Android they call it send broadcast receiver. Similar like broadcast receiver. In this video they actually taught it very clearly. Okay, this is the resources, the URL resources for all the developers tools you need. I will suggest you to upgrade your iOS device to iOS 8 if you want to use Shift. Okay. In order to build just now the Hello app, I think it will take you for around a week's time, because there's a lot of preparation you need. Because first you need to find a ways to upgrade your current devices into iOS 8. And then second one, you need to get a certificate, development certificate. And this is a very tedious process, but after you go through this process, the rest of the story will be very smooth. It will be very easy to create an app. Okay. Anything about Swift, iOS 8, all the latest framework, you can get at this URL. They have the complete video for you. Anything you want to know, there's a health kit, how to actually store the information into health kit. You also can get it from here. Okay. So, okay, my presentation, I almost finished. So this is my contact number. This is my email address. If you have any things you want to know, you can actually email me. So hope my brief introduction will help you in building your app. So any question? If you ask, or you can email me if you want. Do you want to see the video for the Bluetooth one? What they talk about Bluetooth? But it's a very long video. It's going to be around 1 hour. Yeah. Yes, but I would suggest you to build it from scratch, because they can convert the app call. There's some app actually can convert phone gap. There's the app called phone gap. But you don't. I think you better build from scratch, it will be faster. Because if you convert to both, you'll be taking a lot of time. There's a lot of limitation. First thing is your Bluetooth you cannot convert. They only can convert for the app. The one is only you can convert the UI interaction. Those things you can convert, but the architecture you can't.
Is there any lab inside you? Is there any Apple lab inside you? Outside you? Any Apple lab?
Apple Lab. I need to get it. I'm not sure whether you have this. I'm not sure. This one. Get one device. The smallest. Get the AppStorm, the mini Mac. Mini Mac is around 1,000 plus 1,006. Student also you have privilege of 100. Yes. It's actually different market. The app you build for Android, people are not willing to pay. The app you build for iOS, people are willing to pay. People are willing to pay more in iOS compared to Android. Personally, I'm an Android developer. I'm also an iOS developer. For Android, it's a lot easier. You don't need to buy a Mac. Any desktop you can use, any devices you can use. You just buy a 400 phone. You can build on it. Yeah, Xiaomi 400 ringgit only 409 is the Xiaomi 1S. Okay.
For you as a developer,
Yes.
which environment is easier for developing the apps? Besides the desktop,
Which environment? I prefer Android. Android a lot easier. I don't know because maybe actually it's not a lot easier. Android gives you a lot of flexibility. Or their app you can do a lot of things. There's a lot of flexibility in doing things in Android compared to Apple. Apple a lot of restriction. But it's good lah. There's pros and cons lah. For example, in Android you can intercept SMS. In iOS you cannot intercept SMS. So imagine if everyone can intercept SMS, what's going to happen? I can write a program to intercept your SMS. You also can write a program to intercept SMS. At the end, if there's some malware actually receive the SMS, then they discard the message, then you will never receive SMS. There's a pro and con for the user and also the developer. And Android, there's a challenges for Android also. Android too many screens. Okay, for Android, you need to every time you write an app, let's say you design a logo, you need to prepare for 4 kind of different sizes. You need to extra high density, medium density, and low density. For Apple, you need to design 2. One is for iPhone, one is for iPad. So you can ignore the iPad, so you just design one also will work. If you aim for iPhone 5 design, then it's actually you cover majority of the market. So it's a pro and con. It's really painful to develop in Android also. After some time of development, I feel really fed up. There are too many, because Android, there are too many manufacturers. Some of the function you create, it works on this HTC phone, but it may not work in Xiaomi. Actually, I do really. When I build the app, actually, from my experience, the Lenovo phone, I don't know how come what they don't follow the exact spec of what the Android OS is. They already customize a lot of things. While the Samsung, they follow the spec. HTC, they follow the spec, so it works flawlessly. It's pro and con. Okay, any more else question? Feel free to ask me anything you want related to mobile app development. Okay, if no, then I'll call it a day, and then we all can redeem the vouchers from the counter. Okay, thank you very much. Hey, one thing to download this one. This is important.
应该每个人都最新的，每个人的手表都是
You actually download the Xcode data from this URL. Actually, you can straight away download and use it, and then you can build a hello app already. This is your first week mini project, hobby project also can you can. 你不好来我该秀那个 video 给你看啊，很容易吗？Try build. It's simple. One of emulator.
Can you show the video
The Bluetooth one, okay? But okay, I can show you the Bluetooth video.
Maybe just show the link like where it's
Oh, the link, okay. Okay, this is the link for the Bluetooth. This is a link for the Bluetooth video.
Before you show the video, any question you all want to ask regarding the no, not on the technical side, on the competition, on the grand challenge. Any other questions? Because I have a meeting later. No question, huh? Understand, huh? Understand, huh? Okay. You show the video. Show the
So anyone interested, then you go back and
we
build the
will
video.
post it there. We will post maybe the whole video there. Okay. Remember, iOS no phone, Android, Windows got phone.
Okay lah, that's all lah. 哎，今天还有什么东西吗？
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, your device, Go and try out. Charge your device. The charging time is 2 hours. Maximum 2 hours. You charge 1 to 2 hours. It can last supposed to be last for 7 days, depending on your usage. If you say you go and jogging every day 24 hours, then of course the battery life will not last.